Welcome to our webinar about forest investments in the Baltic Sea region. My name is Ulrika Lagerlöf and I will be moderating this webinar. We will keep on for 1 hour and end at 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time. You who participate can write down questions. You will find this under questions and answers here in Microsoft Teams. And we will address the questions in the end of the webinar. We will record this and make it available afterwards, but no personal data from those who listen or ask questions will be published. The subject of this webinar is forest investments in the Baltic Sea region, and today's speakers are Thomas Landers, Key Account Manager for International Investors and also Managing Director for Skogssällskapet Baltics. Mikko Söderling, Managing Director Skogssällskapet Tillanhoiteet, Finland. Kristina Nyström, Head of Property and Finance Consultants at Skogssällskapet in Sweden. And Jeremy Langworthy, Head of Product at OCEL Germany. But before the seminar begins, I would like to tell you a little bit about Skogssällskapet. So we can switch picture at once. So Skogssällskapet manages forest properties for private and public forest owners in Sweden, Finland, and Latvia. We help forest owners maximizing the potential of the forest properties. The objective is to enrich the different values in the forest and to use the forest sustainably from an economic, ecological, and social perspective. Skogssällskapet is owned by a foundation, and we are present in Sweden, Finland, and Latvia. And we reinvest the profit from the management of our own and our clients' forests in knowledge development. Each year, the Skogssällskapet Foundation allocates approximately 2 million euro in grants to research and development relating to forest management and conservation. We also own forest properties in all countries where we operate, and we use these properties as showrooms and for cooperation with research. And with that, it's time for me to also say something about our vision. So next slide, please. So this is our vision. It's to bring added value to forest and forest owners. And now my colleague, Thomas Landers, will talk a little bit more about Skogssällskapet services. So hello there, Thomas.
Hello, Ulrika, and thank you. So my name is Thomas Landers. I'm a forester from Finland, working a good 10 years with Skogssällskapet. And I had the pleasure to talk a bit first about our services in the different countries here in the northern Baltic Sea region. So we have two main services. It's the first one is the acquisition services, where we help you to find and buy properties according to your criteria. So it's the whole process from searching, finding, and also doing the registration and so on when you are lucky enough to win a bid or buy a property. And the second service package is the forest management, and this is really a turnkey solution with everything needed for forest ownership. So everything is based on goal discussions, getting to know you, understanding how to develop the properties, and we have a very long time experience in doing this cooperation with our customers, doing budgeting, planning, and reporting, and developing the estates together. Please, next slide. And yes, of course, forest ownership is today a lot about timber production, and but we see an increasing possibility to develop the forest and the land ownership towards also other values. And this is just a slide showing some examples of those features. It can be a lot related to renewable energy production, aerial planning, land lease, other kind of land leases. We will hear more later today about carbon credits and bio credits that we hope that can also be compensated and part of the daily cash flow in a forest investment. Quite a few of us are hunters, fishermen, hikers that love nature in different ways, and these can be both soft values for us and for the society, but also more and more in commercial terms interesting. Yes, so and then we take next slide, please. And just before I hand over to my colleagues with the different countries and so on, we just wrap up why we feel that you should buy forests in this region. There are some competitiveness parts that we want to share, and I mean, one is of course the land prices that are, let's say, relatively low for land in Europe. The distance to the rest of the Europe is not that far. We have really long traditions in forest industry. The infrastructure is there. We hope and feel that there is less disturbance due to climate change. We are of course affected by climate change, but at least in short term we see that we can also be kind of the winners if there are such in this change. Yes, and of course with the other values, as I just mentioned, that we see a huge upside and potential in this segment, and yeah, we are all countries now also both members of the EU and NATO. Please, next slide. And yes, just to stress that Skogssällskapet has been working over 100 years with the development and management of forest, and we do this in a sustainable way. And with these words, I want to hand over to Mikko in Finland. Please, Mikko.
Thank you, Thomas, and hello everyone. I'm Mikko Söderling, Managing Director of Skogssällskapet Finland, running you quickly through the Finnish forest estate market. Next slide, please. As many of you surely know, Finland is a fairly big country with a very few people in it, and forestry is a very big deal in Finland. It's about 17% of the total export, for example. Some peculiar facts about Finland is that we have a lot of peatlands and we have a lot of peatland forestry, and we also think and stress that we are sustainable as to the levels of harvesting. Good. Next slide, please. The forest estate market in Finland is a fairly simple one, and here are some basic facts. It's about 100,000 hectares per year sold on the market, both on the open market and then the underlying market. And average size of an estate is about 30 hectares, which is pretty much the same as the average possession of a private forest owner in Finland. There is no limitation on the market who can bid for estates, but companies and private persons bid for the same estates. Bigger packages, like we've seen this year already, quite big packages on the market, they are usually sold on the underlying market and marketed directly to potential buyers. Taxes, we have transfer tax 3% in Finland when you buy an estate, and some additional cost to the land survey, etc., but nothing major compared to the estate prices. Next slide, please. As we are a fairly long country from south to north, there is also a gradient in both growth, but also estate prices. Southern Finland, with the big cities of Helsinki, Tampere, and Turku, are of course the most expensive areas. And there is, like, the hunting is a big driver for the estate prices there. But the further north you go, the cheaper the estates get, calculated by per hectare or calculated per cubic meter. There is also a price gradient for roundwood, but it's not as big as for the estates. So therefore, you will have the best investments in northern Finland at the moment. And there is a roundwood index, which we follow quite closely for our customers. And at the moment in northern Finland, we are in a situation where if you buy an estate, you can pretty much set it off by harvesting the standing volume. So that's a roundwood price index sub 1, as we call it. Next slide, please. There are many ways to own a forest in Finland, but these are the 3 most common ones. And it's the limited liability company, or osakeyhtiö in Finnish, which is the most common for foreign forest owners. It's a very transparent way to own forest, and it's maybe easier also to present to your local tax authorities what's happening in Finland. There is the company tax is 20% on the profit, and we have currently a proposal that it will be 18% from 1st of January in 27. Most of the forest still in Finland is privately owned, which has kind of the background in the family forest ownership in Finland, which goes very far back. Good. Next slide, please. Roundwood demand is, of course, a big factor when it comes to forest ownership. If you want the economy to be good on your forest and you want steady income, there needs to be also a market for the roundwood. We've been harvesting quite hard in southern Finland, as you can see from the pictures on the right side. If the number is over 100, it means that we've been cutting regionally over the annual increment. So on the long run, that is of course not sustainable, but there are quite a big harvesting opportunity still in the middle and north of Finland, and that's also why the industry is moving up there with the new investments. We have some 5 million cubic meters of added demand in northern Finland. Metsä Group, Junnikkala new sawmill, etc. So the demand is clearly moving to northern Finland more, and in southern Finland there have been some shutdowns even in the industry because of the resources have been scarce. Of course, Russia is a big factor when it comes to Finland. We used to import around 9 million cubic meters a year, so there is always that factor. If the import comes back, that will surely have an effect on the roundwood demand, domestic demand, I will say. Good. Next, please. Yes, and as you can see from this graph on the right, we've been looking at 4 years of steady increase in roundwood prices, both timber and pulpwood. And this is the country average, but it's still quite good. These are nominal figures, but of course, even in real terms, the price raise has been quite significant. There is very good market data in Finland, so it's very easy to see the price trends, the weekly pricing even. So as a forest owner, it's very easy to so to say follow the market. Good. That's it for Finland. I'd like to thank you and pass over to my colleague Kristina in Sweden.
Kimiko. It was really nice to hear a bit about Finland. I think that we would like, yes, that picture. I'm working as head of the property and financial consultants here in Sweden, because part of our forest management is also that we not only do the forest part of it, but also everything that comes around with that. Next picture, please. Well, as you can see, in Sweden we have quite a few more people living than we have in Finland, and it's also a quite big country. Scarcely populated in the north, more populated in the south. And we have a bit higher average growth per hectare in Sweden than there is in Finland, and a bit more standing volume as well. The forest sector have about 10% of the export of Sweden, and 17 billion euros is the total turnover annually in Sweden. Next picture, please. Sweden is actually the number 4 biggest exporter of pulp, paper, and sawn timber in the whole world. So we are a really big country in the forest industry. Most of the forest in Sweden is coniferous forests, about 82% of the standing forest. And we have quite a lot of old forests in Sweden, about 7% outside of the formerly protected areas is actually more than 140 years old. In Sweden as well as in Finland, quite a lot of the forest is privately owned. About 50%, 313,000 hectares, is privately owned. And about 25% is owned by private companies, and 15% of the state-owned companies. And then it's a lot of other kind of ownerships in the rest, the last 10%. Next picture, please. The forest market in Sweden is a bit complicated, actually, especially if you are a legal entity. As a private person, you can buy forest about anywhere in the country. Some sparsely populated areas might have a law that regulates that you have to have a permission to be able to buy land in that area, but that's normally no problem to obtain. But as a legal entity, you could actually only buy forest that is already owned by a legal entity, and apart from some special rules, but normally that's the way it is. And that also means that a forest owned by legal entities is actually a bit more expensive, about 20 to 30% higher price of that forest than on the ones that are owned by a private person. As a legal entity, you could sell to a private person, but a legal entity could not buy from a private person. We also have actually a bit of a problem with statistics. If you make a pure purchase, then you could find numbers on what has happened. But if you make a property regulation when you're buying something, then we can't find the statistics. So that makes it difficult to follow the pricing, because there is a few properties sold with property regulation. And the normal estate size is about 30 to 800 hectares. And I actually think the average forest owner in Sweden have something like 30 to 50 hectares. The transaction tax is 1.5% of the purchase fee for private individuals, and it's 4.25% for legal entities, so that's more expensive. There's also a fee of about 100 euros, but that's hardly nothing compared to the price of an estate. Next picture, please. One of our property consultant just said like this, that we see that forest land prices have stabilized and turned upwards, albeit cautiously, because we had a dip before. The background is primarily the high timber prices that have greatly increased profitability in forestry. And that's so true that we had a tiny dip, and then Now we see that they've stabilized again the prices and are turning upwards. Next picture, please. As well as in Finland, we have the higher wood production capacity in the south and the lower wood production capacity in the north. And that also reflects in the market values. As you can see here, down in the south of Sweden, where I'm living, we have a market value about 113,000 euros per hectare. But out in the northern part of Sweden, we have a market value of only about 3,000 euros per hectare. So it differs quite a lot. And also around the Stockholm area, it's a bit more expensive, the western part as well. So the prices actually reflects the wood production capacity. Next picture, please. And then we could think about why we should invest in a Swedish forest. And I would say that we have historically a stable price development on the forest properties, as you can see in this slide. The price is actually going upwards, even though we have dips sometimes, but in the long run, it's upwards. And we have an increasing demand for wood products globally. It's a limited resource. There's no new production of land. We only have what we have. And it's a new business opportunity for you, maybe. We have a feeling that the future price development will be good. And if you have a long-term ownership, it should be profitability. Next picture, please. If you happen to have about 3 million euros that you want to invest in forest in Sweden, in this slide you can see the average area that you would be able to get. As you could see, up in the northern part of Sweden, you would get like 1,000 hectares for your 3 million euros. But down here in the southern part of Sweden, you would only get about 220 hectares. So there's quite a big difference. And with that slide, I would like to hand back to Thomas that will tell us a bit more about the Baltics.
Thank you, Kristina. Interesting to hear about Finland and Sweden. And now we go over to the Baltic countries with, let's say, focus on Latvia, where we have our main operations today. Please, next slide. So first, just a bit on that these countries are really very much forestry countries. Here is also some figures that you can then compare to the state in Sweden, but really like half of the land area in all three Baltic countries are forests, and it's increasing. Please, next slide. Looking at the growing stock today, we see that it has really since the 1930s tripled the forest, the growing stock, and it's becoming more and more due to both better management and also afforestation measures and so on. Please, next slide. Looking at the different species on the species distribution, you see that we have like main three species. It's pine, spruce, and birch, but then also quite a lot of other mainly broadleaf species. But I would like to especially stress the share of birch, which really gives possibility to create mixed stands, healthy stands. Also, we have a very nice market for birch, both on the sawmilling side and on chips and so on. And yeah, you can easily also work with continuous cover forestry in these circumstances. Please, next slide. Looking at the forest owner structure more in detail in these three countries, we have a very scattered ownership. So it's a lot of small properties in average, and yeah, it's a huge share of private ownership. So half of the forests in roughly all countries are privately owned, and it's also there where we see this consolidation where we and together with customers are buying, let's say, private owned properties then in these countries. Please, next slide. Yes, so then if we still look at how this development is going, I mean, there is quite a huge increase in the forest coverage since decades back, and it's still increasing. We don't have like the latest facts, but we know the trend, and also the share of private ownership is increasing, mainly due to afforestation measures. Next slide, please. And then we jump over to like the market trends. So one important one is of course the wood prices, and there we have a look on the Latvian ones. The other countries are following quite nicely, and I mean it's kind of the same timber market in whole Baltic Sea basin, and yeah, a bit of a margin market in the Baltics, but we have had really record prices during the last years, both on timber, sawmilling, and also on pulpwood and energy wood. And right now we have a decline of the prices, but still very motivational to do harvesting, and a lot. I mean, the forests are in average quite young in the Baltics, and that means that we are working a lot with development measures like thinning and getting like the value increase and the growth maximized in the stands. So then these prices of the assortments on the low side, pulpwood and energy wood are really important in those calculations. Next slide, please. Then a bit on like business opportunities in the Baltic region. I mean, we saw that in all these countries in the northern Baltic Sea region, we have a turnover about 300,000 hectares annually, which so to say switch ownership, and the Baltic countries are actually providing quite a share, like one third of this 300,000. This is varying a bit, of course, from year to year, and right now we are experiencing also in these countries more of a buyer's market with lower prices and lower demand. But we are sure that when the, let's say, external circumstances, political and financial, on the market, global market, we will again experience more activity on the forest estate market. A special feature, especially in Latvia, is also looking at whole Europe, is this afforestation potential. So we have quite a lot of abandoned land, let's say not too good agricultural land that is possible to afforestate, and of course then also combined hopefully with some nice revenues on carbon credit programs, for example. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, quite detailed figures on what we have experienced on the Latvian forest estate market during the last year and the first quarter. We have good statistics to follow. These are that what we call the buy and build market, where we try to buy fairly small properties and consolidate them perhaps in one municipality or one region part of the country to create a nice forest portfolio that is easier to manage, cost effective, and will also be then also worth more on the market if one wants to exit one day. And here we see that prices are, if you look compared to Sweden and Finland, you get, so to say, more hectares and cubic meters for the same price. And you know the location of the countries and so on, so you get quite nice fertile soils and good production possibilities. So with a good management, you can have a really nice growth and then have also spare money, so to say, to spend on the management and to get the best quality. But today, like what we experienced the last or first quarter of 2025 is a turnover of roughly 6,000 hectares that changed owner, and an average price of 3,700 euro per hectare. And these are buy and build, so there are also, let's say, big packages with thousands of hectares also for sale, and these are not included in these statistics, but normally you have a higher pricing than both per hectare and on cubic meters for this consolidated, normally quite already nicely managed forests, owned perhaps mainly by institutional investors, big forest companies that are the buyers then of consolidated packages. Yes, so this was my last slide for the Baltics, and today we have a great honor to have like a guest speaker from Germany. It's the company Ocell that has quite some insiders and experience already on these, let's say, other revenue streams that we have mentioned here many times, and I'm glad to introduce Jeremy to hear a bit on how you see and what kind of features there is to become. Thank you, and please, Jeremy.
Yes, thank you, Thomas. It's really an honor to speak to you all tonight. My name is Jeremy Langworthy, as Thomas said. I'm the head of product here at Ocell, where our mission is to build the tech that saves our forests. And for the next 10 minutes, I hope that I can answer some of the frequently asked questions you may have about how we can use existing forests to produce carbon credits and therefore diversify revenue. So next slide, please. Thank you. So your first question may well be, who is Ocell? And that's a very reasonable question. I don't expect many or any of you may have heard of us. We are based in Germany, as Thomas mentioned. We were founded in 2018, and we currently have around 50 employees. We are venture-backed, and our main focus is, as I mentioned, on forest, but specifically on two main product areas. That is Dynamic Forest, which is our software package that allows forest owners and managers to manage the strategic and operational day-to-day aspects of the forest on their mobile device and on the desktop. And we currently have over 800,000 hectares in Germany, Austria, and many other countries using Dynamic Forest every day. And the other part of our product focus is on the forest analytics. So this is where we combine the latest technologies I'm sure you've heard of, the high-res aerial imagery, LiDAR, ground sampling, and our machine learning specialization to really understand what's going on the ground in the forest and really provide rich analytics to forest owners and managers. And it's this forest analytics that led us to the insight that actually there was an opportunity in forestry for climate certification. So maybe we can move on to the next slide and talk. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Really to understand what is Ocell climate certification. So it's a number of things, but in the simplest form, climate certification is a diverse alternative to timber revenue for forest owners. It's also a low friction, low risk option to access the voluntary carbon market, or known as the VCM. For those of you not familiar, I'll speak briefly about the VCM on the next slide. But our climate certification is also our improved forest management methodology. That is a way of managing forests that's subtly but importantly different, that lays out a blueprint for creating credits. And climate certification was developed not just by us at OSAL, but in partnership with the Ecosystem Value Alliance and also with independent auditors such as in Germany, TÜV. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the voluntary carbon market, or VCM, what is it? Well, in its simplest form, it's where companies that wish to acquire carbon credits purchase them. And mostly these companies are those with net zero targets, so those who have publicly stated they wish to offset any of their residual emissions by buying carbon credits. And as you can see from the chart on the right, there is a lot of bullish prediction, and this time coming from BCG, about the size of this market and how it will grow. And current market size is estimated to be around 2 billion euros, with a projection that this could rise as high as 470 billion over the next 25 years. Now, obviously, that's a very bullish number, but there are some reasons to think why there is some solid foundation for why we can be so bullish. Particularly, we're seeing climate neutrality targets coming from the EU and German government, but we're also seeing a demand from the market and a response by the EU to increase the quality of the credits that are available on the VCM. So this means that the EU is moving on things like the Green Claims Directive and the Carbon Removal Certification Framework, both of which provide more assurance, more stability, and a higher overall quality standard for the carbon credits that are issued on the market, which again builds trust, which builds demand. And so we're very comfortable and confident that we will see the kind of bullish growth that is illustrated in this chart. And beyond the projections of others, we're also very confident because we have our first-person experience with this. So we are already producing carbon credits with our customers here in Germany, and we're in fact 250% oversubscribed in 2025. That is, there is much more demand than there is supply. So that's why we're very interested in speaking to forest owners who are interested in diversifying their revenue, because we need more credits. There is already a lot of demand on the VCM. So next slide, please. So another question, how does climate certification really work? So it's really a 5-step process, and these steps can go from very quickly. So as quickly as 4 months to at most 12 months is the length of the first cycle. And for a forest owner who's interested in experiencing or becoming involved in climate certification, we begin with a feasibility study. This is where our forest experts look at the operational history of the forest and the most recent inventory that's available and assess whether the production of carbon credits is economically viable in this project area. Now, for most forests, the answer is yes, it is viable and feasible. And so we move forward to the second step, that is drafting the contract. Now, this is really largely a standardized contract with some specification involved per forest. But really the point of this contract is to confirm the project scope, so which land is involved, and make a commitment to move forward to the third step, that is the production of a management plan. The management plan outlines a 10-year plan, a commitment to the methodology that I mentioned earlier. And really it outlines how the operation might be affected on the forest, things like maximum harvest volumes, risk mitigations, and this is codified in the management plan. And then again, this is agreed with the forest owner. And once we have agreement with of the management plan, we have this 10-year commitment to move forward as a climate certified forest. The next step is where it gets really interesting. So then we have the first audit, and this is done, as I mentioned earlier, by external partners. And the outcome of this audit is the production of credits. And an audit reoccurs every year. So every year, an auditor is invited to either visit the forest or look online through our digital tools and confirm that credits have been produced. And then these credits are added to the registry of the Ecosystem Value Alliance. And then in step 5, these credits are sold. Typically, actually credits are pre-sold. That is what's known as part of an offtake agreement. So usually, in fact, this has been the case for all the credits we've produced so far, that the credits are only produced when the sale price has already been agreed and committed upfront. So again, 5 simple steps to go from to become climate certified and produce credits and begin diversifying revenue. The next slide, please. So you might be asking, what is the real impact on an existing forest operation for those that do opt into climate certification? So the impact really, the short answer is that the impact is minimal in the day-to-day operation. There's no additional processes or new machinery required. As I said, this is about the implementation of the management plan that we at OCEL agree with the forest owner. And most forests can sustainably produce 2 to 3 tonnes of credits per hectare per year. This is 1 tonne or equals 1 credit. And those credits produced under our methodology typically sell for between 50 and 80 euros. And that is a premium on the standard improved forestry management credit that you would see in the open market. And I'll go into the reasons why we're able to charge that premium on the next slide. But the good news is that 75% of that value of those premium prices is retained by the forest owner. There is some additional operating expenditure of between 4 and 6 euros per hectare per year. And this covers the cost of the audit that I mentioned and also the continuous monitoring of the project. Overall, the estimated net present value uplift is around 900 euros per hectare over the course of the 30-year project lifecycle. That's 3 stages of 10-year contracts, as I mentioned earlier. Now, the assumptions here are relatively conservative, 55 euros per tonne, only 2.5 tonnes per hectare per year, and includes a 20% risk buffer. So we're comfortable, and as are our existing customers, with this estimate of the uplift on net present value. So hopefully you see those as compelling reasons, as our other customers have, to become climate certified. Maybe you can look at the next slide, please. And really, here we want to call out the difference between OCEL climate certification and other approaches to producing carbon credits. And there are 6 key differences where we believe OCEL does have an upside on the alternative. Firstly, as I mentioned, the waiting time. 4 months is very quick. And as I said, it can take up to 12 months, but we have projects that have gone live in as little as 4 months. And this compares to between 18 and 24 months for other project providers. Also, the cost of setting up the project, depending on the inventory and how recent it was taken, the setup cost can be from as little as 5,000 euros. And this compares very favorably to typically 6-figure setup costs for other providers. Data transparency is a key differentiator for us. As I mentioned, we focus a lot on technology, and we have the software and the forest analytics to really actively monitor our climate certification projects. And this allows us to provide near real-time, parcel level insights into how the project is going. And this is very favorable compared to the static annual PDF style reporting that credit buyers are typically used to. And for this reason, we're able to engender a lot more buyer trust that the project is going well. They trust the transparency of the data. And for this, we see a 10 to 30% price uplift, simply because the buyers of the credits can see what's happening in the forest. The flexibility is a key differentiator as well. So this 10-year contract that I mentioned, a 10-year management plan, really commit the forest owner to follow that plan, but not necessarily to produce credits every year. So there's the option here, year to year, depending on timber price and credit price, to produce or not the credits from the forest. So this allows the forest owner and manager to really optimize revenue on an annual basis, rather than being locked into a decade-long plan. As I mentioned, our monitoring and reporting is digital, and so it's largely automated. So these annual audits that I mentioned, which are obviously key, do not require a lot of additional effort from the forest managers or the rangers. In fact, it's largely automated. And we work closely with our auditing partners to make sure that they understand how to use our tooling, and their questions are answered on screen in real time. And lastly, and I think this is a very important one, we are European. And so our methodology and our technology is designed for EU forests. And that means that we're ready for the coming regulatory changes. And in fact, we are preferred by DACH buyers of credits, as opposed to those of potentially methodologies from US origin that are not at their heart compatible with EU standards. So this is an advantage now, and we think is a future-proof for the future as well. So 6 key reasons why we feel that OCEL climate certification is different. And the last slide, please. So hopefully now you're asking, oh, great, how do we get started? And the way to do that is by booking a 30-minute introductory call with me, Jeremy Langworthy. You can reach me at this email address or scan the QR code, or to visit our website there listed below, ocel.io. And we are eager to hear from you. As I said, we're oversubscribed this year, and so any and all forest owners who are interested in participating in climate certification, we'd love to speak to you. So thank you for your time and attention, and now I'll hand back to Ulrika.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, all of you, for very interesting topics. So I will actually start with a question for you, Jeremy. So here it is. So you will be back on at once. So why did you create your own standard when Verra already has one?
Yes. Yes, it's a very good question. So Verra is the well-known brand name in carbon credit and carbon standards for sure. We were certainly considered this 3 years ago when we were looking into, how we can apply forest analytics to help forest owners produce carbon credits and diversify revenue. So we considered Verra, but Verra has several disadvantages. There are methodology challenges there, which were highlighted by studies from Berkeley and also from headlines in The Guardian of baselines that overinflated the number of credits to be produced each year. And so this was a big hit on the trustworthiness of Verra. And we saw this when we were speaking to credit buyers, that actually the brand name of Verra was having some challenges, and trust is everything when it comes to credits. So we saw that this maybe didn't have the value it previously had. We also saw that Verra was really a first generation methodology, as opposed to ours, which is we feel is next gen. Verra relies upon paper, essentially reporting PDFs, whereas we're able to report in real time. And then there was the practical consideration of just the length of time it takes to set up a Verra project and the cost. So as I said, 4 months compared to 18 to 24 months, as little as 5,000 euros compared to more than 100,000 euros typically. So with all these reasons, we took the big investment hit and spent the time to create a methodology and have this verified by technical experts. And we think it provides a much greater entryway for forest owners in Europe to start producing carbon credits. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much. So now it's time for Thomas to have a question. I would like you to answer the question, which of the countries you would say would be easiest to invest and manage forests in due to legislation, etc.?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. I mean, not only because we have representatives of all countries here, I would say that it's still, it's a good investment in all countries, and it's not easier or less easy in any of the countries, but it's of course differing a lot. I mean, Christina was already mentioning that it's a bit limited for companies to buy in Sweden, but at the same time there is when there are company-owned forests for sale, it's they are really good quality, and you also see a better value growth on those in those forests. And let's say in Finland we have a very active market and a lot of nice properties for sale, and everything is really transparent. The properties are a bit smaller in average compared to Sweden, but and then in Latvia it's small properties. You have to do a lot of work, but at the same time you gain nice land, and it's also really transparent, and it's smooth and fast. So I can't see, I mean, big barriers, and of course we are helping out in all cases. So that's my reply. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I have a question for Kristina. You talked about the development of prices of forest land, but do you see any like regional differences in price development?
Well, yes, we actually do. This really small rise that we could see is a bit more clear in the southern part of Sweden than in the northern part of Sweden, but we think that the northern part will actually develop more. But right now it's the southern part that is leading the price race. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I have a question for Mikko. So if I want to invest in forest in Finland, how long would you say it takes to buy like 200 hectares in Finland?
Thanks, Ulrika. If you go with the buy and build rule, you will be looking at, in average, 30-hectare estates. So quite fast, actually. We buy quite a lot in Finland for our customers, and we know the ropes. But if there is like a request that it's a 200-hectare estate in southern Finland, let's say close to the big cities, it might take some time to find the right estate. I hope that's the answer you were looking for.
Thank you so much, Mikko. And Thomas, here is a question for you. We know that many people interested in investing in forests also are interested in hunting. So if I would buy some land in Latvia, do I also get the hunting right?
Yes, that's another relevant question, and something which we are facing in our everyday life. And yeah, in Latvia, depending a bit on how much you buy, you are the owner of the hunting right. But if you just buy a few hectares, then you might need some negotiation skills to become the member of the local hunting club, which, so to say, normally facilitates and organizes the hunts, because there are some minimum limits on big game, for example, like 500 hectares or 1,000 hectares in one piece to get those licenses. Small game is always free for any owner to hunt, but with the big game, the more land you have in a certain area, the more rights you have to use it by your own. But yeah, normally you are most welcome to join this hunting club, and that means also that you can accelerate your hunting area. So just by owning 50 to 100 hectares, you suddenly have a right to hunt normally with nice people in maybe 2,000 hectares or 5,000 hectares. So that's a nice upside. Thank you.
And now I'm really curious, Mikko. Does it work in the same way in Finland, or is it different in some way?
Yeah, there is a market driver definitely in southern Finland, close to the big cities, that people are actually buying forest estates to become members in the local hunting clubs, because we also have these 500 and 1,000 hectare rules on deer and moose. So, but in northern Finland, usually it's enough that you buy a little bit of land, or even just go there and ask around, and you will be a member in due time. So, but in southern Finland, with a lot of game, you definitely need to buy some land. That's easiest. Thanks.
And Kristina, can you say something about how this works in Sweden, and perhaps also something about how it works with hunting leases, and if there is some like differences in different parts of Sweden?
Of course. You need to, of course, own land to be able to hunt on your own land. But there is also quite a big market for leasing hunting areas. And that is also a way of earning more money on your forest property if you're not interested in hunting yourself. In the northern part of Sweden, there's more land than interested hunters. There you could actually rent hunting land for like about €1 per hectare. But there are also quite large areas in the southern part of Sweden, and especially around Stockholm and the other big cities. The price of hunting could be about, let's see, I need to calculate to euros again, but up to between 50 and 1,000 euros per hectare. So if you're not interested in hunting yourself, you could actually earn quite a lot of money of renting out your hunting rights to someone else. I hope that was an answer.
Thank you, Kristina. And now one last question. Thomas and Mikko, you both represent countries with a border to Russia. Could you say something about how the situation is with Russia maybe affecting the market for forest properties? We can start with Thomas.
Thank you. Yes, just quickly, of course, it has created some uncertainty among investors, especially new ones that are looking at these countries. But let's say the ones that we that own forests in these countries have kept on the daily businesses, and we hope and really believe that this neighbor in the east will calm down, and we will have normal times again. So it gives a bit on it affects a bit this demand side, and of course on the timber market side you have some effects that we were importing quite a lot, especially birch timber, and for forest owners in Finland and the Baltics this has been really a nice thing because it has increased the prices on these assortments. Please, Mikko.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. Yeah, same for Finland, that we've been importing quite a lot, about 9 million cubic meters. But I think also the question has to do with the whole Baltic Sea region, as both Belarus and Russia exported quite a bit through different channels to Europe, and they ended up in the Baltic Sea region. So it's not only the direct import, but it's the whole region that's affected. And as a forest owner myself, I kind of like the situation that we don't have the Russian fiber on the market. But who knows what happens in the future if there is a truce in Ukraine, which of course we hope. And will we have business back with Russia? I don't know. But that will have an effect on the roundwood market for sure. Yes. Hope that was a decent answer.
Thank you so much. And with this, it's actually time to end this webinar. So thank you so much for listening today. And here you can see some contact details, I hope soon, to today's speakers. Don't hesitate to get in contact with us if you have further questions, or if you would just like to discuss these topics, like investing in forest properties. And next slide, please. You can also follow us on social media and read more on our website. So thank you so much for today, and goodbye.